All right. Good afternoon, everybody. We are live. Hope your day is going well. Today's Saturday, so happy Saturday. It's Saturday afternoon. Uh, I'm excited to really dive into this conversation on the day in the life of a database administrator. And this is born out of a question we get often by prospective, students, prospective database engineers who are looking to make a transition into this field. Right? I get this is a common question we get asked. What does it look like? Right? What does the day-to-day feel like? So first of all, thank you for being here. So if you've asked that question, maybe you're at a point where you're trying to make up your mind about a new career, you are exploring or considering a new career, and especially in database administration, and you want to understand how does it feel like on a daily basis, right? What exactly is the expectation? You want to get that feel, then this is for you. So whether you are try to make a career change into information technology, or you've identified database administration as the area you want to break into, then this is for you. So keep listening. Whether you're a career changer, you want to make more money, database administration is the part for you. If you joined me last week, I talked about data and understanding database administration, right? We established something last week, and that was that we are in the, well, I call it the data era, right? The volume of data generated on a regular basis is crazy. Like gigs and terabytes of data on a regular basis, right? It's ridiculous the volume. Like there is a new content being created every day. I'm talking to you right now. I am contributing to the volume of data that's being generated, right? So we are in a time where everything is driven by data. Business runs on data, decisions are made based on data. And so businesses are always in need of people with this very important skill of managing data. All right. And so it's, and that's why it's super important to, know, and that's one of the things I talk about when it's time to make a choice of a career path. You want to go to where there's a demand. You want to go to where there will be opportunities, all the time. And the data space is so significantly important when it comes to the overall IT infrastructure for the organization, that there's always a demand for people who will manage. There's always some form of data management going on within any business, right? Whether you're using relational database platforms like SQL or Oracle, MySQL, whether you're using, but there's always some way, or maybe it's a younger company without the resources to do, or maybe not at the size, or don't have the resources to do SQL. You're using Excel, you're using other platforms for managing data. And so there's always a demand for this super critical skill. And it's always going to be something that when in terms of job opportunities, in terms of prospects, in terms of income, that's why this space is in demand. So again, go back to think of any business, any line of work, whether it's the farms or hospitals, healthcare, they are all data-driven fields, right? They are all driven by data. So even though the core of what they do is healthcare, providing taking care of sick people, at the core of it is patient information, patient records. That's data, right? Prescription data, all of that, medications that are FDA approved. It's all data. There's always information needs to be stored somewhere where it can be retrieved quickly and used to make decisions. So again, go back to my session last week. This is a quick recap of that. So kind of establishing again the need and the importance of database administrators, why we exist, why we are, needed, why what we do is critical to every business. So now to the day in the life, right? What does it feel like on a daily basis? What do we do? Why is this all important? What does the day in the life of a database administrator, database engineer feel like? Again, it's important. So typically, right? So I want you to, I'm putting on my hat, my database engineer, database administrator hat. Now, if you haven't met me before, my name is Nnamdi Iheanacho, and I've been in this database space for the last 2012, this is 2024, 12 years, actively been in the training, I'm lead faculty at ENSA Technologies, been helping people make this transition into database administration. I've helped close to 300 people to date get into the database engineer, database administration part. So I've built, as a person, as a consultant, as a database engineer, as a senior engineer with different companies. I have everything I'm talking about is based off of my experience. I'm going to be talking to you based off what I've seen, what I've experienced, the things that I've done, but also as a mentor, faculty coach, faculty member coach, I've also been privileged to see what goes on with, other people's infrastructure. So I'm speaking from a wealth of experience. And so it's important to highlight that everything I'm saying to you today is it's born from a place of experience. All right. So I'm putting on my database engineer hat. When I come in the office in the morning, what's the first thing I do? I had a song come to my head. We teach our kids when you wake up in the morning, you say a prayer, you make your bed, you brush your teeth. So that is not what I'm referring to. You get to the office in the morning. The first thing we're doing is, look through alerts, notifications, right? This is a lot of it from the previous night. So we have what's an alert, what's a notification. It's like the email you get telling you something is happening or broken, right? Whether there's an issue, there's something going on. It could be generated from, a monitoring tool that the server team has put in place. So you want, sending out, you get an email saying, hey, we're running low on space for this server. That's a notification. Or you get an email saying this particular task failed last night, right? So those are notifications. You want to look at the notifications. In fact, with a lot of companies that have offshore support, when you come in the morning, the offshore team will typically have put together a checklist, or not a checklist, but a checklist, like a spreadsheet with a list of issues from the night before, right? Things that have occurred and what has happened or what has been done in terms of resolving or attending to those issues. Some of them, they escalate to you. So when you come in the morning, you go look at that. They highlight, hey, go check this one out, or this one, this is what we did. We took care of it. But you want to look at all of those, notifications, alerts. They could be system related, they could be database related. But that's the first thing you are likely doing every morning is looking at your notifications, checking all the emails. Again, these notifications typically will come from a third-party tool, or they are native to whatever platform or your environment is on. When I say environment, I mean your database infrastructure. Are you running on SQL Server, or are you running on Oracle? Are you running on MySQL? Right? So you can set up notifications to come just the way you do on your phone. You enable notifications, right? So that means somebody sends you a text, you get a pop-up, a balloon pops up to tell you, hey, you got a text from this person. That's a notification. We can configure similar things within our database platforms, your database systems, to let you know, basically notify you of events, right? Something failed, a critical task failed. So you get an email. That can be the notification you choose your option for, right? Or you have some critical system resources like your hard drive. Let me call it hard drive. Storage is the actual way we'll describe it. Your storage is running, you're running low of space, for example. You don't want to be caught off guard. And so you configure things to notify you, to send you an email when you're running low on space, right? There's different types of notifications. I don't want to get into the weeds of all of the details. But that's the one thing you want to keep an eye on those things, because the reason why you're getting notification means go check this out, right? Pay attention to these things. That's the whole concept. So that's morning routine. That's the first thing you're doing is checking out notifications. You want to do a bit of monitoring. If you have any monitoring tools, you want to go and check on the state of your database infrastructure right out of the gate, right? Go on if you're using a SQL Sentry, any third-party tools, you want to go and look at the overall health of your critical database servers, right? So if you work in a big, we'll call this enterprise-sized environment, right? You're working for a Verizon, you're working for an AT&T, you're working for T-Mobile, big companies, and you have, let's say, 400 production database servers that you are part of supporting. You're not necessarily going to go look at all 400 of those in the morning, but you have those critical database servers, your critical databases that you want to ensure you always know how things are, because that's where the money is. That's where the business is going on. We have those, like some companies will use tiers to identify their servers, right? So you have like a tier one, tier two, tier three. Even though they're all considered production, there's levels, right? And so you want to go to those top tier ones. And what's the status? What's the status, health wise? How are they doing? I hope, resources, all of that. So you're looking on the dashboard, you're looking on your monitoring tools, or maybe you have some custom scripts that you use to, check out and see what's going on within all of this, within the infrastructure, within the environment. So that's, you're doing some monitoring, some checks. You're looking at checking out database performance. Again, just looking through, making sure all you're doing at this initial stage in the morning is making sure things are good, right? Making sure things are the way they should be. All of your benchmarks for, your system resources are in the right at the right place, and there's no emergencies, right? So that's your focus at the beginning. So now, as the day continues, you're doing, just regular daily tasks, right? We do a lot of things. Again, it could be anything. So it will be around. You move into that realm, start going into that maintenance realm, break fix issues, right? Things begin to happen as the day goes on. So you get a notification that a task failed. We have automated processes, right? In our database infrastructure, we call them jobs, right? A job in the context of database administration is an automated process. Okay, so you have a job to run a report. This job runs every day by 2 p.m., for example, and you get an email saying this job failed. Those are, that's an example of, just a regular day-to-day break fix type issue. So now your job is, if you're not on call, or maybe your hands are a bit freer, it's you that will jump on that issue, right? You're going to pick up that task, and depending on what the protocol is within your company, you're going to be the one to go in and investigate and possibly resolve that process and communicate back to the group like, hey, this is being investigated, this is being resolved, moving on, I got this. So it could be just regular failures, let me not say failures, but break fix, those day-to-day operations, things happen. Different stuff will come up during the course of the day. Things like somebody can open a request and open a ticket and assign it to you to run a script, for example, right? You're the one who is going to go. If that's within the time frame, it's going to be a task that comes to you. So you're doing your regular, maintenance activities, resolving failures, attending to requests, right? Requests can be, oh, we have auditors coming and we need a backup. We need a backup of this particular database, and it needs to be restored to this particular server, right? That's an ad hoc request. You're going to go in, if the time frame is within the time you're working, or it's something that needs to be done, you're going to go in and do that task. Again, different organizations allocate tasks differently, right? There's processes and protocols for doing different things, right? So yours is to adhere to what your organization accepts as the norm, right? It could be anything, right? It could be things around security. This is actually very common, where maybe there's new users that need access to specific databases. You see, maybe teams have new team members, and they want to get them access to particular, databases, particular servers to do certain things. And you get those tickets or emails and say, hey, DBA, can you help me do this? We have this new team member, grant them access to this database, right? You have developers reaching out to you maybe for some testing. They want specific data to do some testing, or they needed to run some script against some database and send them the results, or collaboration requests for, hey, we want to make sure this is good, and so can you help us look at this? So those are the type of things we do. Just day to day, it's based on what's going on that day. Not every day. Some days will be plenty on your plate. Some not so much. But just do you get a lot of requests, depending again on how big your organization is, what the protocols are. If you're part of a project, for example, they might have some testing they're doing and they need you to get involved. And so you get a request from the project, the application development guys, and they want you to come run a script for them or review output on a script or something. But that's the nature of daily tasks, right? So just random assigned tasks, whether they are maintenance related, do a backup for me here and move this data to this place, or this something happened, I go look into it, right? So those break fix issues, those ad hoc requests that come up during the course of the day, that's kind of like, once you go through your morning routine, this is the next phase you're, going into, and then you're, again, dealing with a lot of as break fix issues, like I mentioned, troubleshooting issues. We are constantly, a lot of our job is monitoring, right? Keeping an eye on third-party tools, making sure if we get, not just monitoring, but proactive monitoring. So we want to find things before they become issues, right? We use these tools, we're paying attention, we have our own custom notifications that alert us to potential problems. And we proactively try to resolve those things before they become issues, right? Like I gave the example of, monitoring space. Maybe we know that, hey, if your server gets to a point where you are at 100% utilization for your processor or for your memory, like processor is CPU, memory is RAM, right? Just to kind of further break it down. If you're 100% utilization of those resources, you're likely going to be in trouble. And so what you want to do, what companies do or organizations do is they peg utilization of those resources at a particular level, or they set, benchmarks. And so it's like I'm setting a threshold for utilization so that when we get to this level, I want to get an email. When I'm at 70%, notify me that CPU is at 70% so I can go figure out what's going on. If it's something not to be worried about, we can say, okay, yes, I can see why it's high. The backup is running, it's going to drop off when it's done, right? Or if there's a real concern, want to investigate, resolve those things before they become a problem. So a lot of our day is monitoring, capturing the issue, proactive monitoring, capturing things before they become problems, resolving those things, right? Implementing preventive measures. So that's always a big part of problem solving for us. Is band-aid fixes are not good enough. A band-aid fix is you try to solve a symptom so that you can just get past the thing. But you want to do a proper root cause analysis where you see an issue. You want to get to the why behind the why behind the why. Like get to the roots of why did this happen? How do we ensure that this does not happen again? You don't want a reoccurring problem, right? And so it's thorough root cause analysis, designing a solution for that. And then the last part that a lot of people don't talk about a lot is documenting that solution, right? Documentation is so key because if there is a repeat occurrence of the same issue, now we have a standard way of handling it. We have an SOP in place to resolve this particular issue if it comes up again, right? So this is very critical. It's not just about let's just do what we can to fix or resolve the symptom. It's about going deep, getting to the root, fixing it from the root, right? So it doesn't grow back again, right? And then documenting our findings and our results to ensure that if for any reason that happens again, we now have a process to deal with this particular issue, right? So again, still narrowing down. Now, another thing that in terms of day-to-day tasks, we'll talk about project management, right? We are very involved with projects. So projects can be anything from migrating, your databases from one server to another server, right? From a physical server to the cloud. It can be implementing new solutions within newly implemented servers. Adding new features, right? It's even building out SOPs, right? So projects can be anything. There's a new application that's been launched by your organization, and you are assigned to that project as the database engineer, the database subject matter expert. That means you are attending meetings, right, and giving opinions on how, from a database perspective, best practice. Recommendations on what versions of the platform to use and infrastructure. You're basically there to say, hey, this is our policy on this. This is best practice. This is what we do when it comes to our database. This solution will work, right? You're like the person representing the database. You're the database expert on this project. So when there's any task, any, you know, testing, implementation sessions involved, maybe they need to run a script, create a stored procedure, you become the person that gets those tasks, assigned to them. It becomes your job to implement these requests. So if there's a task that is, dedicated or unique to a specific project, it is going to come to your queue, right? By queue, I mean it's going to be assigned to your tickets, and when you come in, you're going to see that task assigned to you, and you get it done, right? It could be again an upgrade, right? So you have a dedicated time where okay, you go do your installations or you're doing a migration. You go through the steps, you build out the project plan from the database side. These are the steps we're going to take, and this is what we'll do. This is how we'll back up, and this is how we'll copy it over. This is how we'll restore it. We're going to have the applications now point to this new server, so that everybody that was talking to this old database or talking to this database in the old location, now we're going to route them to this new location. Right? You work that out. You're in communication with the application people. You're in touch with the server engineers, with the networking guys who will do the rerouting. And so you're taking ownership of your part in that project, right? Your deliverables, the steps you take. You're coming up with the documentation that will follow. Companies do things like we call it change management. Change management just means the process we follow to ensure that things are done properly before they go live into our live environment. Our live environment in where business happens. So I can't just, because this is a solution I want to implement, 12 p.m. middle of the day, go in and run the script to fix that issue. There's always a process. How do I make sure that my solution actually works? Have I tested it? Have I had it peer reviewed? Maybe that means another colleague looking at exactly my solution and making sure it works. Right? Because again, if I'm building a solution, guess what? It works. I might not have the full picture. And so that's why we have change management processes. And so there's always some level of change management in place. It might be getting on the call and explaining the solutions you're trying to implement to like a board. And they ask questions to make sure that it's not going to cause any issues, right? Do you have a rollback plan? Do you have a way to manage what happens when things go south, if it happens, right? Where did you test this result against? How do you know this is good? Did you test against production data? So those changes, right? Again, you're going to be involved in projects like that, and you're going to have to follow process and protocols, new process. You're doing, again, going back to documentation. Project management involves documentation, right? You're delivering on time. We have what we call service level agreement. So if you're part of a project, that means there's an agreement that, hey, this is the time frame in which this will be done. So you're working to meet those contracts per se, those service level agreements that you have with your end users, right? And service level agreements can come into play with even the problem solving, just daily task aspects, right? It can be, I have an agreement with this client that once there's an issue, somebody's going to respond to it in 10 minutes, in 24 hours. That's an SLA. So again, going back to projects, whether it's building out a new infrastructure, a new database infrastructure, whether you're migrating to a new environment, whether you're upgrading an existing one, maybe you're making tweaks to features enhancements, feature enhancements, those type of things. It's a big part of our day-to-day task. So attending those meetings, attending those calls, giving feedback, right? Showing up to those implementation sessions where you are doing the database bit, right, of that deployment is a key part of our day-to-day task. And again, if you're watching this on YouTube or anywhere you're seeing this and you have questions, please hit me up in the comments. I'm always going to be checking to respond to these questions. Another big part of what we do is communication and collaboration. Again, we're talking about the day-to-day tasks of a database administrator. Communication is key. I did a workshop on non-technical skills required to be successful as a database administrator, and this was one of the key skills I highlighted. Communication, right? Written communication, oral communication. It's so powerful, right? Because again, a lot of people react to what they don't understand. If you can take complex technical concepts and explain them to the business folks, right? If I am a third party user of an app, maybe I'm responsible for supporting an application, right? That the back end is in SQL. That's where I manage. The person at the front who has to talk to the customer doesn't understand certain things. They just know it's broken, fix it. But you want to be able to convey clearly to them that this is why it's broken and this is how long it will take and this will happen. Because they will use that one to feel comfortable, to that they don't know what's going on. You're calming nerves if you can clearly explain what's going on. But also now they can convey intelligently to the customers, end users, and tell them, hey, we're working on this. This is where we are, and this is why you're not getting what you're looking for. So communication is key. Collaboration, right? We never really work in isolation as database engineers. Like I said, we are mostly at the back end. That means data is going to be fed to the database through a front end application of sorts. So that's already one layer of communication, right? You're always interacting with what's a front end? So it could be a web page, a form on the web. When people fill out forms online, that data goes somewhere, database, right? You do a transaction, you make a purchase through e-commerce, all of that is being fed back. It's updating the database, it's adding new records to a database somewhere, right? You're making a withdrawal from your bank, you're doing that through an app, that's the front end. Back end, database is updated. So we're always interacting with different players. Where at the back end, there's other components. The server where the database lives is not owned by the database administrators. The server engineers manage that, right? So that's the Windows people, or if it's a cloud database, if it's a cloud infrastructure, you probably have cloud architects who set that up and are the ones who are responsible for doing some configuration there and then handing it off to us. So if anything is going on with the server, with that server infrastructure, guess who we're talking to? The server engineers. Now, coming back to data center configuration. A data center, that's where your servers live. How is it able to talk to themselves? A network, right? So network engineers have built out connections, right? They've come up with these clusters that all of our networks within this company are able to talk to themselves, right? And also clients can do things through the app and get the information from our database that's in the back end, all networking. And so if there's a break in the network infrastructure, we're dealing with the network engineer. So I'm explaining all of this to say we work with different people. We're dealing with the network guys, we're dealing with the server guys, we're dealing with the application owners, we're dealing with project managers, we're dealing with, business people who have interest in who will control their data, right? People that do reporting, they have to talk to us, they have to work with us. So it's a lot of communication and collaboration, interacting with other departments, even sometimes clients, right? Even if we're not directly communicating with clients, a lot of times we send feedback upwards to business people, to reporting people, and they take the feedback and use that as, further to talk to clients, to end users. So there's a lot of communication and collaboration in what we do. A key part of, in fact, a lot of jobs within our database realm are called production support. Production support is It's about if it breaks, we're investigating, we're fixing. But that means we're also talking to the affected people in real time. Like, hey, I'm looking into this. Well, this happened, and this is where we are in the troubleshooting. We'll get back to you in so time. Right? That's providing technical support. And sometimes it could be even some level of training to let people know when this happens, this is what you need to check for, or this is likely what's going on. Again, going back to communication, collaboration, right? If it's reporting analysts that you're working with, you are the database expert. These people are coming here to run reports, get data for their dashboards, and that's it. And so maybe you're working on doing trainings for them, explaining to them their permissions and what they're able to do and not do, right? Showing them how to connect to specific databases, how to run their scripts to get their reports, and not need you, right? That is part of collaboration and communication. Team meetings, right? I talk about project meetings when you're part of a project team, being there as the subject matter expert, being able to again explain database concepts or answer give your opinion on the database side of things is a key part of being that SME or subject matter expert in a meeting scenario. And so that's, just with communication, and then it can be your team meetings where you're giving, updates, whether it's an agile type environment where you're doing daily stand-ups and all of the backlogs and refinement meetings and different things. Like I'm not going to get into that because that's not my area. But there's so many types of meetings that we get to be part of, where we're talking to people who don't necessarily speak SQL or Oracle or MySQL, right? And so you're having those collaborations and opportunities to communicate clearly. So that becomes that's a very important part of what we do, is to be able, being able to clearly convey your opinion, give suggestions, make recommendations, is a key part of being successful as a database administrator. Now, another thing I want to highlight here is to really do well in terms of, as a database administrator, we have to be committed or given to continuous learning, right? Staying updated with the latest technologies. And it's important to build this into your day, right? Reserve portions of your day for, some, maybe in a week, you should spend at least an hour learning something, improving yourself. Because the technology is constantly, no matter what database technology you are using, it's always evolving. With the advent of the cloud, we need to expand our scope of knowledge. You might need to go do some, research on cloud technologies because now we're migrating to Azure or AWS. And so you need to learn some things there. You need to even get certified, in those areas. And so there's that continuous learning component that needs to be built into your day, your week, staying on top of the latest and greatest going on. One of the things I always get this question from students about certifications. Do I need to be certified before I get a job? Is it going to help my cause? And I'm always saying, not necessarily. To get your foot in the door, certifications are not necessarily required. I've been part of several conversations, interviews, as a candidate and as a panelist myself. And it's never been a conversation, right? What certifications do they have? When you're trying to get a job, when you're doing your interviews, everybody comes with a great resume. And so it comes down to the communication we're having, right? My questions to you, the scenarios I paint for you, and how you handle those questions, right? So people are looking for, in an interview situation, the people talking to you in the technical interview are trying to see your technical proficiencies. They want to see that you've done the things you claim that your resume says right? They want to verify that you can come in and start adding value they want, right? They want to know that you can come in and contribute, you can come in and help, you can come in and help us carry the load or let the load be spread. That's what they're looking for. They want to know what you would do in specific scenarios that they are dealing with. That's the objective of most interviews. They're not necessarily trying to look for how much paper you have, or how much qualifications or credentials you have. Not necessarily. It's more, situation and scenario based, and what will you do? Explain these concepts to me. If this happens and this happens, how would you address it? That's what interviews are looking for the most part. So certifications are more for a way to demonstrate your growth within as a professional, right? You're expected to continue to keep up with the changes in the environment, in the technology of your choice. That, if you're a SQL Server DBA, how am I staying up to date with what's the changes within SQL Server? If I'm an Oracle DBA, how am I staying up to date with the evolution of Oracle, right? And that is where certifications, conferences, advanced training comes to play. A lot of companies have provisions for you to go attend conferences to improve yourself, to get, just to go equip yourself so you can bring more value back to the team, back to the organization, right? And so it's very important, right, that we are constantly we build into our day-to-day professional development, attending conferences. It's part of your job, right? Because again, certifications become how I negotiate or show my employers that I'm advancing. That's how I show my boss, my supervisors that I'm not where I started from. Right? I've made improvements this year. So you might want to get a raise at the end of the fiscal year. You might want to get more money. You might want to get more, you might want to negotiate something else or promotions. That's where this becomes important. I can show my progression by the certifications I've obtained, the conferences I've attended, right? The courses I've taken. That's where this becomes important. But that needs to be built into, so you're not just about solve problems and build, you need to build into your daily tasks, right? Every week you should allocate time for growth, for development, for continuous learning, time to pursue certifications, even build into your work, networking, right? Being part of networking with peers, industry professionals, that needs to be built into, right? Whether it's lunch and learns, where you go learn about what other people are doing in other teams. Let's say there's teams or platform that integrates that you get to support, that sit on top of your database that you support or you get to work with often. Being part of Launch and Learn to understand their product and what they do. It's important, right? You have this colleagues that you're always helping with support, intentionally interacting with them to, establish some level of rapport, understand working styles and all of that helps. So, continuous learning, continuous development, networking, just networking with peers, attending, industry events to connect with other professionals to see what they have going on in their own environments, who do the same thing as you. Because again, nobody wants to ever have to change if you're in a good situation, but who knows, right? You might be in a different situation. Um, and what they do at that place is different from how you've done things in your previous place of work. It is by networking with other professionals in other places that will keep you abreast of how things go outside of your own jurisdiction. All right, so that's, a key part of when we talk about, day to day, day in the life of a DBA. And I need to highlight here is, especially when you're working in a, I'll call it enterprise size environments of high volume transaction environment. That means where you're doing hundreds of thousands of transactions on a daily basis, on an hourly basis, right? Think of an Amazon or a Walmart. Transaction volume is in the millions on a regular basis, right? Data volume that is generated, it's in volumes, terabytes, right? That also means that things probably break often in those type of environments. Um, and so we can get caught up in supports, doing support related, answering tickets and investigating issues and failures. And every day, you just get to work and it's go, 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 go. And sometimes we even forget we take work home, especially in this work from home era where you can roll out of bed and then turn on your computer and you're working. And so get into a cycle of just work, right? And it gets draining and the fun. Being a database administrator is fun, in my opinion. We get to do meaningful work, we get to solve problems, we get to really impact business revenue directly by what we do. But it can also get stressful if you let yourself get overwhelmed, if you don't have a strategy. And so I'm discussing this work-life balance, even as in talking about day-to-day tasks. It's important to have a strategy in place to help you manage your workload, manage stress, right? It's not every one of the things we get. Technical people, a lot of times we get into this trap of what to do. We get excited about problems and we get so attached to that problem, we don't know when to stop. And it's important to realize, okay, it's time to take a pause and continue tomorrow, right? Except you have deadlines, valid deadlines that need to be met, and that shouldn't be all the time. It should be an exception where, hey, this is really urgent. I've been told this is super important. I need to be done, and I couldn't get it done during my regularly scheduled work hours. I'm going to stay a little few more hours to get it done, right? It should be something where it shouldn't be irregular, where hey, you just keep going, and by 9 p.m. you're still on, you're still online, you're still doing stuff. That's unhealthy, and in the end, you might end up being more unproductive for that. So it's important to be able to separate ourselves from the job and decompress, connect with family and loved ones, and do what's important. We work so that we can afford, a good life. We don't live to work. There's other aspects of our life outside of work, and you want to ensure that there's that balance. And so things like managing your time, for example, not just okay, it's time for work and it's time to sleep and it's time to do your school commute and all of that. Yes, that's part of what I'm talking about. But even within your hours on the job, within your work, regularly scheduled work time, right? Managing that time so that you are effectively, you have things you're supposed to be doing per time. So if it's between 8 and 9, you're doing tickets, attend meetings, right? You know what to be doing per time on the job, right? So that when it's time to move on to the next thing, you move on. It's time for a break, you take your lunch break. It's time to work on issues and pick up tasks. You're doing that. You have, projects. And okay, this is between this time and this time. I'm working on all of my tickets and my projects, and I'm getting this done. You just break out your day into the things, categorize the things you do, and allocate time to them within your work, like within the context of work, right? Not just your overall 24 hours now. Like this is 12 to 5 or 6 is sleep. No, between now, just this more granular now within the work hours, your 9 to 5, your 8 to 3 or 4, or whatever it is. Making sure that you set yourself up for success, for optimal productivity. What day of the week am I doing my personal development? Am I studying for certifications? Right? When am I attending lunch and learns? Just build that into your work time and allocate time to it so that you know exactly it helps you stay productive every day, right? And that way you are going, you're making the most of your time at work. So you finish every day and you feel like I got stuff done today. Like that's how you should set yourself up so that you can feel like that at the end of every day. Like, you know what, I got stuff done. I got a lot done today. When somebody's asking, what did you get? I got those things done. Right. If you need to, make sure you're updating your tickets, putting notes in the right places. The goal is you want to, a lot of people, the reason why they continue working even after the scheduled work time is I don't know I don't feel like I've accomplished anything or I really need to get this done. If you allocated time and you can like, you know what, I didn't get it done, but I've made some progress. I'm going to get to it tomorrow. And now I can speak to it because tomorrow, let's say we're in a meeting and someone like, where are we with this? Because that's why people want to stress themselves. They don't want to not have an answer for that question in a meeting, in the stand-up course. I always say, you know what? Yes, I'm at 60%. I was working on this yesterday. I got a lot of this done, but the plan is to get the rest of it completed today. I'll give you updates on that when it's done, right? That is that's how you make the most of your day. Again, it's going to work differently for everybody, depend because everybody's situation is different. everybody's your work when you start working, it's going to look different for you than it does for me. It's been there's no two places I've worked that were the exact same, operated the exact same way. Um, so when you get into a new situation, you want to once you understand how the flow is and culture and prioritization and all of that works, your manager style, you want to create a game plan that will help you be successful. And in doing this, most companies might not announce, maybe when you're going through the recruiting process, a lot of jobs now are listed as hybrid, um, or maybe even on site day one. One of the things that I can assure you is, regardless of the company, a lot of our work can be done from home because we're not necessarily ever connecting to the actual servers directly. We are on a laptop connected to the management studio, and our servers live in a data center somewhere, right? Or if you're in a cloud environment, it's in the cloud, hosted by Amazon, Azure. You don't know where it is, right? So a lot of the time, we don't physically need to be in a work environment again, but some companies require that. Where I'm going is, if you have the opportunity to maybe build in some work from home, have a conversation around taking a few days working from home, again, just to, especially when you have to maybe do a little extra, or you have a late night deployment. You can negotiate for, what, I'm staying up late to get this done. I'm going to work from home tomorrow, right? Or I have to, all of this week we're applying updates to our database servers, and I have to stay up every day from 10 to midnight for the next 2 weeks. So for the next 2 weeks, I plan to work from home, right? Build that in so that you want to maintain that work-life balance. You want to maintain that work-life balance. And if it's not work for me, it could be okay. I'm doing this, so I'm going to connect by 12 o'clock, right? Whatever it is. Um, just make sure you are looking out for yourself. The work is the work. It's fulfilling if you're going to be valuable to your employer, and if you're going to really help your company do well. You have to be in the best shape of, best state of mind. You have to be in an optimal state of mind. You have to really, you need that balance. If not, you're going to get flustered. You're going to start feeling overwhelmed. And when you start feeling that way, you have a level of resistance, and honestly, you're upset, at the job and all of that, and now you're not enjoying it anymore. And so yes, it's exciting. Well, I was working late and I did this and I did that. Those are exciting to say until it's not. And so just just be mindful of this work-life balance as we go through our day in the life of a DBA. It's super important that we we make sure that we set ourselves up to be successful, have a long career. This is a very, like I said before at the beginning, this is an exciting career path. Being a database administrator or a database engineer is a very fulfilling career path. And you get to do meaningful work, you get to do work that impacts revenue directly. And so it's fulfilling. Right? A lot of people do work in spaces where they can't really say how what they do affects anything. That's not us, right? We can clearly see how the impact of what we do. We can clearly see that. And so it's fulfilling work, but it can also become daunting if we let ourselves get overwhelmed, right? So in fact, I missed out on something. Some people are not challenged enough, right? They're doing like a few things that they do every time, every day, right? That's where you need to invest in this, challenge yourself by taking on more courses and expanding your skill set. Identify opportunities to contribute, give more in terms of recommendations, right? Challenge yourself to show value, right, within a company. I'm wary of when things become too laid back and chill, and we don't have to do much, right? I'm not advocating for, again, overworking yourself or being in situations that stress you out, but also be careful about if you get to a situation where there's not much going on and you can't point to, important things that you're part of on a weekly basis. what that makes you be is dispensable. Because again, organizations are not investing in you paying you 100K, 120K salary, in the hopes that you're not doing anything. If there's not much going on, that means that position can be eliminated. That means, hey, we don't need three DBAs, we need one might be okay, right? So you want to avoid the complacency that comes with just being chill, and focus on how do I, you know, keep demonstrating value, even if the job doesn't require even if there's no formally assigned tasks. How can we improve what we do, right? What solutions can we implement to get things working better, right? What are some, so that's how you should be thinking, right? And challenging yourself to keep growing. Okay. And then again, leverage that downtime, that free time you have to massively improve your skill set, get certified, expand your skills, attend conferences, right? Because again, while it is what it is now, it might not be the same tomorrow. And or you might be called upon to, hey, you've been chilling now, it's time to demonstrate your proficiency. And you've not been doing any practice, you've not been improving on yourself, and so now you're caught sleeping. So just be careful of that. So in conclusion, I've talked about a few things, right? I talked about just what it feels like day in the life from the beginning of your work day, reviewing notifications, alerts, keeping an eye on performance, constantly monitoring, responding to ad hoc requests, stuff like that. Just I've talked about a few things, resolving issues, collaboration with other teams, communication, implementing preventive measures, being part of projects, managing projects, being that subject matter expert. We've covered quite a few things. And again, please go back to this video as a reference point from time to time. But I'll end with, hey, being a database administrator, like I've said so many times, is exciting. It's fun, it's rewarding. And if you're watching this and it's a career path you're looking to explore, I'd love to help you. I'd love to talk to you more. In the description somewhere, you should see a link to book a call to talk to us. I'd love to get on a call with you and to tell you about what we're doing. We have our programs. We have multiple ways we can work with you. Live classes, multiple sessions, flexible options for you. So just let me know, let us know, get on our calendar. Let's get you sorted. Let's get you on path to career success. Again, I'll have the link in the description once this video is finally posted. But thank you very much for listening to me. It's been, about close to an hour. I've been rambling by myself. Thank you for listening. If you stay to the end, if you have any questions, again, I'll be in the comments from time to time. Feel free to ask your questions. I would love, 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 love to answer those questions. Again, help you out any way I can when it comes to, navigating this new career path. That's what I do. All right. But thank you so much. I'm excited to work with you. But again, I will see you in the next